We'll always have Paris. We didn't have, we lost it until you came to Casablanca.
Or I'll never wanna let you.
They lit up screens, stages, and hearts, and too often, their cigarettes too. For decades, smoke curled through studios, dressing rooms, and recording booths. It was part of the look, glamorous, rebellious, sophisticated. But behind the cool image, it was stealing breath from the very voices and faces that defined generations. Tonight, we remember the stars who gave the world so much.
I can only remark, it ain't sensible to be flirting around in front of Mr. Abels. Your bracelets are getting pretty old-fashioned.
You could shut your mouth, we got a guest.
And lost their lives to the same habit that once helped them face the spotlight. Stay until the end, because our final story isn't just about one person's death. It's about how one era of Hollywood finally realized that smoke doesn't make legends. It takes them away. He was the face of classic Hollywood cool, trench coat, cigarette, and that gravelly whisper every actor tried to copy. But behind that smoky silhouette, Humphrey Bogart was fighting the cost of his own image. For most of his life, he smoked 4 packs a day. It wasn't just a habit, it was part of his brand.
I grab Bugatti, then she walks in. Well, that's the way it goes. One in, one out.
By the early 1950s, his voice had deepened, his cough worsened, and he ignored every warning. In 1956, doctors found cancer in his esophagus. He underwent surgery, but the damage had already spread. Bogart passed away the following January, at 57 years old. The man who made smoking look effortless became one of its most famous victims. A cruel irony Hollywood would remember for generations. But as fans mourned him, another star was following the same trail of smoke. The golden voice of America, smooth, romantic, and timeless. Nat King Cole believed cigarettes helped keep his voice soft. He smoked while recording, while rehearsing, even while performing on live television. By 1964, he was coughing through sessions and finally went to the hospital. Doctors found advanced lung cancer. He was only 45. Cole continued to record until the very end.
Jack Frost nipping at your nose.
Telling friends he wanted to leave something beautiful behind. In 1965, surrounded by family, he took his final breath. His songs still play: Unforgettable, Mona Lisa, Smile, each one now tinged with the quiet lesson of how even the warmest voice can be silenced by smoke. And he wasn't alone. Across the ocean, another smooth-voiced crooner was fighting his own battle. The quiet Beatle lived for peace, gardens, and guitars, but spent decades inhaling the stress of fame through cigarettes. He started smoking as a teenager in Liverpool. It was part of the band's early image. By the 1990s, years of habit caught up to him. Cancer struck his throat, then his lungs. Even as he weakened, Harrison stayed calm, still recording. Still joking with friends about life's impermanence. He passed away in 2001 at 58. When the news broke, candles filled the streets from London to Tokyo. His final message to fans was simple: everything else can wait, but the search for God cannot. For millions, the man who once sang, "Here Comes the Sun," became a quiet reminder that even light can fade through a haze of smoke. If cool had a sound, it was Dean Martin, whiskey in one hand, cigarette in the other. For decades, he made life look effortless, but that easy charm came with a cost. Martin smoked heavily throughout his career. By the late 1980s, he developed chronic lung disease that slowly took his voice and breath.
But I'll be here if you should find.
Even when doctors warned him, he brushed it off with humor, saying he'd smoked too many songs. On Christmas Day 1995, Dean Martin passed away at home in Beverly Hills, 78 years old. For fans, it felt like the end of an era, the Rat Pack charm forever clouded by the smoke that once made it shine. She made the world laugh louder than anyone and smoked more than anyone realized. Lucille Ball was rarely without a cigarette, both on and off set. In the 1950s, even her character on I Love Lucy occasionally puffed on screen, a sign of how normalized it was.
I hope I didn't hold up the party.
Not at all, darling. Do come in.
Decades later, her heavy smoking led to chronic lung problems and heart complications. In 1989, after emergency surgery for an aortic rupture, she passed away at 77. America lost its comedy queen, and many learned that even laughter can't outlast the toll of smoke. Poet, singer, philosopher, Leonard Cohen turned pain into poetry and smoke into ritual. Friends said he wrote with a cigarette always burning beside his typewriter. He joked that he'd quit many times, successfully, until the next one. By his 80s, years of smoking had worsened his heart and lungs, yet he kept performing, even sitting through concerts when standing became difficult.
Time that we began to laugh and cry and cry.
In 2016, he passed away peacefully in his sleep. The man who sang Hallelujah had long accepted mortality, but his voice, roughened by smoke and time, remains one of the most haunting ever recorded. From his quiet Montreal beginnings to his final LA apartment, Cohen's story showed how beauty and fragility often share the same breath. He danced through pain, fought through fame, and kept going when most would stop. Patrick Swayze's fight with pancreatic cancer became public in 2008, but few realized he had been a lifelong smoker. Doctors linked his illness partly to years of heavy cigarette use. Even during treatment, he continued to work, filming the TV series The Beast while undergoing chemotherapy. He told interviewers that smoking was his only guilty pleasure. In 2009, at 57, he passed away surrounded by family. Hollywood mourned a man who had inspired millions through Dirty Dancing and Ghost.
You're the one thing
I can't get enough of.
A reminder that strength of spirit can't always outdance the damage of smoke. Elegant, whisper-voiced, and impossibly smooth, Peggy Lee made jazz feel like silk. But behind her calm stage presence was a lifetime of cigarettes that slowly wore her lungs and heart. Her songs, Fever, Why Don't You Do Right, Is That All There Is, turned her into a legend. By the 1980s, she performed sitting down, her breathing labored, but her voice still mesmerizing.
You wouldn't be a wonder now from door to door. Why don't you do right?
She passed away in 2002, 81 years old, from complications linked to years of smoking. Quincy Jones once said she could whisper a note and fill a room. Today, that whisper still floats through time, proof that grace can survive even the hardest battles. She was the queen of disco, a powerhouse who ruled the 1970s dance floors with Last Dance and Hot Stuff. In later years, she spoke openly about her smoking habit and the toll it took. After 9/11, living in Manhattan, she feared the dust had damaged her lungs, but doctors later confirmed it was cancer that ended her life in 2012. She was 63. Her death shocked the music world. A voice once strong enough to lift millions, now silenced by the twin legacies of smoke and time. Donna Summer's story bridged eras. from the disco ball to the hospital room, reminding fans that even energy that bright can fade too soon. Few guitarists burn brighter or faster. Eddie Van Halen's genius transformed rock. But his lifestyle followed the same tempo. He began smoking as a teen and rarely stopped. In 2000, he was diagnosed with tongue cancer, later throat cancer, illnesses linked to decades of heavy smoking. Even during treatment, he kept recording, performing, smiling through pain. When he passed away in 2020, fans around the world played his solos in tribute. His son Wolfgang said his father died doing what he loved, making music. Eddie's story remains one of brilliance shadowed by a habit that even the loudest amplifiers couldn't drown out. Known for Mission Impossible and Airplane, Peter Graves embodied steady confidence. But behind that calm voice was a man who spent decades smoking through long TV shoots. In 2010, just days before his 84th birthday, he collapsed outside his Los Angeles home, suffering from a heart condition worsened by years of tobacco use. He died instantly.
Well, this is really the nerve center of the whole ship. Say, that sure is a cute puppy. What's his name?
Scraps.
Scraps.
A sudden end for an actor who had defined composure. His passing reminded Hollywood that behind the camera's glow, health rarely gets a retake. The Man in Black Glasses, the voice of heartbreak. Roy Orbison's songs like Only the Lonely and Crying defined an era. But behind the power was a fragile heart and a lifetime of smoking. He suffered heart disease and underwent surgery, but never gave up cigarettes. In 1988, just after a triumphant comeback, he died suddenly of a heart attack at 52. His haunting tenor still echoes across generations, a voice that soared above the smoke even as it consumed him. She gave Hollywood its bite, fierce eyes, a cigarette in every frame. Smoking was her signature, part of that defiant attitude audiences adored.
The kid, Junior that is, will be down in a minute unless you'd like to take her drink up to her.
I can get a fresh one. Karen, you're a Gibson girl.
By the 1970s, her health was crumbling. Strokes, cancer, exhaustion. Still, she acted until she couldn't speak clearly anymore. When she passed away in 1989, 81 years old, journalists called it the end of Hollywood's backbone. For millions, her life embodied power and style, but also the high price of both. A genius who never followed rules, in music or in life. Frank Zappa composed, conducted, and created like a man racing time. He smoked constantly during studio marathons, saying it helped him think faster.
Every other country has their own art, their own music, their own theater, their own drama, their folk dances, folk songs, folklore, and it means something to them.
Diagnosed with prostate cancer in the 1980s, he worked until his final week, finishing an orchestral piece before passing in 1993 at 52. Zappa's brilliance was unmatched, but his story was yet another reminder that even genius can't out-reason the body's limits. To generations, he was Spock, logical, calm, and immortal. But even Vulcans can't defy biology.
Since my customary farewell would appear oddly self-serving, I shall simply say, good luck.
Leonard Nimoy quit smoking decades before his death, yet the damage was done. In 2015, he died of COPD, a chronic lung disease caused by his earlier smoking years. He had spent his final years warning fans against the habit, tweeting, "Don't smoke, I did. Wish I hadn't." His final message to Earth was both human and profound, A farewell from the man who taught the world to live long and prosper. Across decades and continents, cigarettes claimed the voices that shaped our culture. From Humphrey Bogart's rasp to Nat King Cole's velvet, from Lucille Ball's laughter to Leonard Nimoy's logic, each believed the smoke was harmless until it wasn't. And yet, their legacies remain. Music still plays, films still shine, laughter still echoes. Each name, each story, a reminder that brilliance doesn't need smoke to burn bright. If these stories moved you, help keep their echoes alive. Subscribe, share, and join us next week as we remember the lives that shaped our world, one unforgettable story at a time.